Okay, let's start
And if you
rolling.
guys get hungry, let me know. We make you guys some food.
Sound speed?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, you can just yell it out. I'll go back and make it. I'll come back out here. I'll cover it in flour. Be like, yo, we're ready.
I'm gonna be moving back and forth a
Yeah.
little bit. If it's distracting, just let
No. You
No,
just
you're
do
good.
what you
You're
tell
good.
us what to do. We'll do it. So yeah, we don't know any. I don't know any better. We don't know any better, right?
Sound
So
speed as
we're
we
gonna get
roll?
back and call. Yeah.
Good to go? Okay. Hey, everybody, this is podcast number 1. I think we decided we're going to call this Office Talk. And I kind of want to just tell everybody if they're just hearing the audio version of this, why did we choose this location? I mean, we're at your restaurant.
Yeah, we're
Brothers,
a restaurant.
Brothers Office Pizza.
Yeah. Yes.
Little town of Liberty Lake, Washington. I don't know. I like the dynamic idea of, people, like there's people that just walked in.
Yeah. People get to come and go, at their own pace, and we're gonna kind of do what we do, and so hopefully. People embrace that a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how busy or slow it is. I think we're going to be here. We're going to share our stories with each other.
And that's kind of what I wanted to get into was why. I mean, I know you and I talked a few weeks ago. We were drinking at the bar and talking about, okay, I want to start a podcast. We started getting excited. You're like, yeah, I want to do it also.
Yeah.
What was it like? Where did we land on? Why are we doing this? I mean,
think
I've got my reasons. You've got your reasons.
My
but-
reason is because I feel like we need a platform for anybody's welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, I love sharing my stories, and I want to know about your stories, and I want anybody who's walking through the doors or hears this podcast to know that they are more than welcome to come sit down and share a story with us.
Well, see, one of the things I liked when you and I were talking was you're really big into helping, like, young kids, young men find
Yes.
leadership. So how did you land on that, or how? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. So I think what happens is, over the years, as whether it's business to business, job to job, that I've had in the past in this industry. So my thought is, from my perspective, it's more driven towards people in this industry. You get a lot of young men and women. They're on the in-between. They don't really, you didn't get a credential to come work in a restaurant. You just don't.
Right.
There's really, unless you're like a world-class chef or somebody who's striving to be one,
Anybody could walk into the
yes,
industry, though.
anybody can start by dishwashing. They can cook. They can learn how to bartend and be a server. And then not only that, more than that, it's not just about the staff, but it's the fact that you get to meet so many great people in this industry, most customers, as well as all your vendors, people who have experience. Most of your vendors you'll find, whether they're beer or liquor or food salesmen, they've worked in a restaurant. They understand the grind, the hustle, the compassion.
It's a tough industry. I mean, my wife used to work at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And it was, it was grueling. It was like, you're go. I mean, I think I worked at a Chinese restaurant for one day.
Yeah.
They said, hey, come be a waiter. And I did it. They're like, oh, come back.
Yeah, right. I was like, that's okay.
I failed.
Yeah. You can't understand the pictures. I get it. Like here, it's we at the end of the day need to really embrace some of the younger generation that we have now. My thought has always been, as I've gotten older and worked more and more years in this industry, we lead a lot of young men here. So my thought has always been they have to have a place where they can be who they are versus walking in the door and being whoever you want. And I try to embrace that for them.
So do you feel like a lot of young men right now need a lot of direction? Is it like they're struggling? They're like, hey, they're getting out into the world and they're scrambling and they don't know what to do. They don't have a good father figure. Like what's?
No, my thought has always been as a male in general, we don't have generationally we've just been a little bit suppressed in the fact that we don't get to share how we feel. And
right.
Going forward now, we're at a time where you have a lot of young men. It's not the direction that I'm giving them. It's the fact that I want them to feel like they're in a space where they're comfortable being who they are in their own skin. And so, we don't talk about how the night went the night before. We talk about, hey, how are you doing today mentally?
Yeah.
I want these guys and the people that are here to feel like they have a platform, that they have a say. You know, I don't step over them. I don't correct them. I never have.
You're the opposite of micromanaging, and
Yes.
that was actually one of the things. I mean, when Rachel and I first really started coming in here, I think it was, I hate to say, but I think it was COVID.
Yeah.
We came in, it was like, these guys are awesome, and you always had the same staff.
Yeah.
It's like, man, there's no turnover here.
No. Yeah.
What is it about this place?
We
And
just
so,
want to nurture, like an environment. You know, growing up, working in restaurants, getting to the point where we're at now. Not that we have a lot of life experience. I do, but
which we're going to get into, by the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
from what I do have in restaurant industry, and I've always worked in a restaurant my whole life, whether it's a dishwasher or a cook, and we'll get, we'll like you said, we'll get into that down the road, but you just don't have a place where you feel like you can be yourself. Like you have to sit here and be somebody else the minute you walk in the door, you know.
Right.
And I think part of the draw here is that we're in the neighborhood. We get to know our regulars on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty Lake's a small town. You see a
yes.
lot of the same faces.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And I want these guys to have every opportunity in life to succeed, and I support them in any, like I want them to pursue their passions and their interest, and I get them for a small window.
Right.
So whether that's 5 months or 5 years, I'm grateful for that. And
Yeah.
so in that time, I feel like we get to take advantage of the fact that we get to teach each other how we want to learn, how we want to lead. I don't want to work in a place where I have to work at multiple restaurants just to make ends meet.
Right.
And I've done that, So, one night you're bartending here, the next night you're serving there or cooking there.
Just to survive.
Just to
Yeah.
survive,
Speaking of surviving, because Rachel was talking about what you guys were chatting about the other day, just,
Yeah.
where your grandfather was at. Take the floor.
Yeah.
How did
so
you?
I came up, my parents were immigrants from Lowe. My dad was a child soldier.
Wow. See, geographically, I don't even know if I know where that is.
So landlocked country, Southeast Asia, right? So,
Okay.
The Vietnam War was fought kind of like with Laos being kind of like the middle ground, right?
Okay.
Because you're fighting through the mountains. And so my dad, and the reason why they met was they met each other at a refugee camp once the war was technically conceded. So you have to understand that that was a horrible war for a lot of people. My dad was a child soldier. When the war ended, you have a displacement of a lot of people. And so, whether you choose to go one way or the other, my mom and her family divided up. To escape persecution, they were, fortunate enough to be able to make their way all the way to Thailand into a refugee camp. And that's where my parents met. He was a child soldier. He had
So
lost,
child soldiers, like how young?
Yeah,
are we
probably
talking?
13, 14. The pictures I have, he's sitting here manning like a machine gun post.
That's crazy.
With soldiers that are like twice his size. He's a tiny man. I'm only
Yeah.
5'2" on a good day. So you can only imagine being malnutritioned and being tiny, But when they met there, the thought was always that the only way to have a family was to come here to America. And so they were married in a refugee camp in Thailand, and then tried for multiple years. They lived there for 3 to 5, I want to say 3.5 to 4 years before they were able to get a church organization to sponsor them, a non-denominational Catholic church, and bring them to Seattle, Washington. When they settled there in the early 80s, they had my older brother, myself, and I have 3 siblings. We're all about 11 years apart.
Are you the oldest, or where do you line?
I'm the second. My oldest
Second,
brother is
okay.
a year and a half older than I am. My younger brother that works with me and does a lot of projects with myself here in town and always has is 4.5 years younger than I am. And then my youngest brother is 10 years or 9.5 years younger than I am. So you see this whole. We were so grateful to be, able to do what I do today.
So when did you start? I mean, how long has Brothers Office?
So both pizzerias. We have 2 little small neighborhood pizzerias. One's in the South Valley. The other one is here in Liberty Lake.
Okay.
We are actually right around 11 years old.
Okay.
And so, we're tiny spaces. And the thought was that you're kind of a little bit off the beaten path in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because we're not actually looking for traffic. What we're looking for is people that want to be part of this place.
Yeah.
And so, so then you cater your staff to that dynamic.
You're the modern
Yeah.
you're the modern Cheers. You know, for a lot of younger demographic listening to this that don't know what Cheers is, it's
Yeah.
where everybody knows your name. It's
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we're grateful enough that we've up until COVID, we never really had a phone. So um, people come in here and they actually get to know their neighbor, which and Liberty Lake also in the last 10 years has grown quite a bit. So you have to understand that like when we open the doors here, a lot of people walking through the doors, they don't even know that they're neighbors. You know, or
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when they do get to meet each other, and you get to hear the stories, it's pretty amazing. And so now, you know, fast forward to today, you know, on any given day, you have a handful of people who look forward to being with each other here, who celebrate, you know, birthdays with each other, holidays with each other, and just any time that they have a chance to be together, whether it's on the boat or with a meal or here at the bar, they're here. So that in itself, you know, you have to kind of really understand that we are trying to create a space where nobody's really on their phone. You know, people are here getting to know each other, providing a sense of community for each other, and that's huge. And that helps actually my young staff. You know, they get to see that, you know, not only you're a bartender, but you're part of a family. At the end of the day, you know, you get to know everybody, you get to know their kids, their pets, their significant others, their life story. And so that's kind of what spurred me to want to do this, is because I think we have the opportunity here to meet a lot of great people who've lived a little bit, who have great stories, whether it's in the food service or not, or what led them to Liberty Lake, or into a small growing town, or to Spokane in general, such as myself. And then like me meeting you, Stephen. So you have
Yeah,
to
I
think
mean,
about
there's
that. Yeah.
there's so many. Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
do this shot
Yeah.
at some point too. This for the
So yeah,
for the
so
first
today
one.
is a great experience because we, like you said, is we don't have a script for this. So I hope people understand that we are sitting here for the first time today, just trying to figure out if we can get along, right? I think, I mean, that's
Yeah.
you know, and so we get to do this, try to figure out if it sounds, if all the refrigeration is going to throw everybody off, or if it's going to bug the customers coming through the door. But the thought is that hopefully we get enough people to step up to the mic and share their stories with us, you know, and talk about anything, everything.
And that's what
Yeah.
I like about it. I mean, the idea of having, I mean, I watch podcasts a lot too, the Jordan Petersons, the Ed Milads, the Tom Bilyeu's. There's a lot of the, you know, really powerful names and stuff, but there's so much potency in somebody that, hey, who is this person? And let's hear their story, because there's so many people that are going to relate to a random John Smith.
Yeah.
When they hear a story and like, oh wow, I'm going through that same thing. Because I just sometimes people don't like to listen to the big wigs talk about the same thing in a sense.
Yeah, I
on
want to listen to
multiple-
somebody who's living right now for today,
Right, exactly.
you know,
yeah.
who wants to tell us about.
Well, let's commemorate.
Yeah.
Did I use that word right?
Yes.
Commemorate. So
Yeah.
my brother was telling me, this was a while ago. He said there's actually a proper way to take a shot.
Okay,
I'm like, all right.
let's do it your way.
So, because it always burns when it goes down.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, dude, you have to hold your breath,
Okay,
take the shot, hold your breath for a few more seconds, breathe in,
okay.
hold your breath for a few more seconds, then breathe out. That sounds
right, well, let's
complicated,
do
but I'm
it.
like, all right.
All right, well, cheers.
All right, cheers. Yeah, good to have you. Breathing in.
I do like that. It feels good. It feels like it's natural. Like I should be doing this more often. But
Good. Thank you for that. What
yeah,
was
no,
that?
thank you. That was
vodka?
just a little vodka. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice, easy morning
Well,
drink.
so I think, you know, for me, I really just, because our heads are in the same space.
Yes.
I think a lot of the people that we're going to have on this podcast really fall into 4 categories. And you and I were talking about this a
Yes.
while back. Health.
Yep.
Because, I mean, health, you got to be healthy.
Yeah.
Ethos.
Yep.
Kind of the, you know, what do we do? What are we living life for? You know, are we here by design? Are we here on accident? Is it chaos theory? Whatever. Love or relationships.
Yes.
It's a big one. And then money.
Yes.
And so I kind of coined the idea of HELM theory, HELM.
Okay.
So people, you know, if you think of HELM, let me ask you, what do you think when I say the word HELM?
You know, I'm interested to learn about it because, like I said, I think a lot of people also realize that we
What
we
comes
don't-
to mind when
yeah.
I say just the word HELM? What do you immediately
Yeah.
think of? You think of a guy at a ship, right? Like
yeah, I
steering
think of a
boat.
guy. Yes, I think of a
Yeah.
guy leading something.
Exactly. So and that's
Yes.
kind of where we said, all right, if we can be like this HELM theory, that if we can land on, because I feel like everything falls into those 4 categories. no matter what it is, it's whatever story they have. It's about relationships. Could be marriage, could be siblings, could be kids, grandparents, friends, whatever. It always comes down to money, or it comes down to what's your purpose? What are you doing? Why are you fighting in this war? Why are you building a business? And then health. I mean, obviously, I don't know if this was super healthy, but it was super
we gotta be here.
healthy for my soul. So
Yeah. So my thought is always too that I feel like we have the opportunity to, because honestly, like Stephen, you and I don't really know each other.
right,
So this is our actually first time that we've actually had to sit down and have a conversation more than, hey, let's start a podcast.
right.
So now we get to work on building a relationship with each other.
Yeah.
Our families.
So
our friends.
you're married, right?
Yes, I'm married. I have
Okay.
4 little kids.
4 kids.
Yeah, and
What
you
ages?
are too.
Yeah.
So my kiddos, my oldest is 13. I have 3 little boys. My Sayer, he just turned 11 yesterday, which is awesome. Happy birthday, Sarah. My daughter, my only princess, she's 8, and then I have a little guy. He's 5. His name's Bowen. And so
You got a crew, man.
and then you have 2. I see him here all the time, but like I said, I know nothing about them. So this podcast.
Other than they're growing every single time.
Yeah,
they
they're
get in.
way taller than I
Ashton's
am,
like
and-
6'4".
Yeah.
Riker's 5'11", I think now.
Yeah.
Age 14, Ashton's 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you, like you said, this has been in business for 11 years?
Yeah.
What made you decide I want to go start a pizza place? Like how do you come up with the idea and say, I'm going to start a pizza place?
Yeah, I think just a lot of trial and error, right? I think what happens is doesn't matter where you went to high school, doesn't matter what you did for college, doesn't matter how many corporate jobs you've had or any job for that matter. One day you just kind of sit here and try to figure out, and I thought about this on the way here today because I knew that this was an improv podcast, so we don't really have a script, and so it's just me thinking a lot about how I'm going to answer some of these questions,
Yeah.
and what we're even going to talk about. And I thought about this actually. So my thought was always that I'm in a business where a lot of people they will tell you all the time that I'm doing what I do for a living because it makes me happy, and I don't feel like that's an honest answer.
Oh, that's good. Let's dig.
Yes.
Unpack that, yeah.
Yes, I feel like you get a lot of opportunities to figure out what you want to do for a living, and that's the money side of what you're talking about, right?
Right.
What can I do with my skill set that can provide for? At first, it's just myself.
Right.
Then it's possibly myself and my partner, my wife, and then all of a sudden you start having a family, and you don't even know if you can have a family to begin with, but you got to start somewhere. And
Right.
and for me personally, I just don't plan very far ahead. I don't wear a watch or a ring for a reason because I'm gonna lose it. I don't know what time it is. I really don't care. So.
So kind of not to make it this cheesy YOLO, you only live once mindset of day to day, but
Yeah.
so how far ahead do you think you plan? I mean,
I try to plan. I mean, everybody has an idea of like, you want to plan for 5 years, 10 years, your whole
where am I
life, your
going to be in a
grandkids.
month?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and all that, you don't realize that it changes overnight, because you don't get to control what happens to you. I could leave this parking lot today and get hit by a car and or get in a bad wreck or something happens, and that shouldn't change the dynamic of the fact that this restaurant's still going to be here for all the guys that work here, and this restaurant's not going to be here for the people that rely on it, which would be my wife's going to have to figure something out about this restaurant, somebody to help her, and so I don't want that dynamic to change. And the thought of this restaurant is, you hear a lot of business owners say, hey, you get into a business, you need to be there all the time.
It's hard. I mean, not gonna lie, like the
Yeah.
restaurant industry is tough to. I mean, I've never really per se worked at a restaurant, but I've heard
In any
it's,
business,
Yeah,
I should say, yeah.
it's 10 years. They
Yeah,
said no, you
in-
got to be
yeah.
there. If you start the business, you got to be there 10 years
Yeah.
running it before you can actually step away.
In
and
any
say-
business, any profession, I feel like if you don't put your time into it and your soul and your passion into it, and you don't actually, and I'm not saying that, I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't have to love what you do.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, you have to find a way to be happy with what you do.
Yeah.
And so like, I, again, bring back to this point of like, everybody says, oh, I'm doing this job because I love it.
Dude, if I
mean,
was
good luck.
water skiing 40 hours a week,
Yeah.
every week, I would hate it. Like
Good
it's,
luck.
I mean, you
Yeah.
probably see me on the commercials
Yeah.
and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
an actor.
Yeah.
But if I had to act I mean, I don't know. If I had to act full time every day, I would burn out.
I think the reward for me at the end of the day is that, and I'm not saying that I don't love this job. I'm just saying that the best part of my day is to know that I'm coming here, to know that my staff is going to be here, the customers will be here,
Right.
and everybody has a place where they can connect. And nobody knows, like what the future holds. And so who knows if we're going to be here tomorrow, right?
Right.
So as we're here and we're, in live and living color, you get to meet people, you get to communicate, I spend all my time talking to people every day. When I get home, my wife always teases me that, like, anytime there's a party, she takes me with her because I'm willing to sit here and talk to anybody. And I think, and you're the same, Stephen. That's one thing I do know about you is that
It's a general curiosity about people. I
Yeah.
mean, I love people. Like, I want to know, like, tell me about yourself.
and this is part of my day.
Right.
It helps me, make my day go by in a way that I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I like making a difference. I would like to think that every day we get to make a positive impact on somebody.
Yeah.
And that's not in every job. That's not in every industry, especially in restaurants. So coming up, back to your point of how I got here, why I wanted to do a restaurant was I've worked in a lot of different jobs. I've had a few, as myself, I consider myself to be more of like actually at the end of the day, I tell people all the time that I make pizza and pour beer.
I love it.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's awesome.
With everybody else that works here. I work just as hard today as I did for any other business owner I've worked for in the past. That has never changed. The only difference is now I feel like we get to run a restaurant in a respectful, kind manner where everybody feels like they want to be part of something.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that'll encourage them to, someday go on and do something else, whether it's in this facet of a restaurant, in this industry, or in something else. It'll encourage them to move on and do something else, whether it's become a teacher, finish their education, start, another business in any other, pursue music, pursue their interest. You can do it.
So that kind of that whole mantra, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, do you think you would ever continue to franchise and say, hey, we're going to have 1,000 Brothers Office pizzas around the country and kind of hone in on that? Okay, we're going to always keep it family.
No,
or is that more only possible because it's you and you're here?
So the deal there is in the beginning, if you think about being a selfish individual, which everybody is, right?
We're all
Yes.
selfish. Yeah.
So you think, oh man, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna create like 100 of these. We're gonna be rich. Well, people don't really understand that, like, business owners in general, especially restaurants, the margins are thin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's not like Steve, you guys come here, you know what's up. Like, we don't sit here and pump the numbers. We don't.
No, you guys
We want
give
people-
good pours too. That's what we.
No, and we want people.
My wife says prosecco.
here-
I'm like, oh, we'll get a bigger pour. We
Yeah.
go to Jimmie's.
Yeah. Well, we want people here who want to be part of this place, who want to pass their time with us,
Yeah.
right? And enjoy their time here. We're not rushing anybody out the door.
Yeah.
We're not, and the thought there is that we don't really answer the phone very well because, one, you really can't hear it. Two, you're focused on the people that sit in front of you.
Yeah.
You really are. So the thought there is, why would you go out of your way to advertise and send, many, many flyers into the neighborhood when if you did that, you would disappoint a lot of people who walk through the doors and then feel like they're not being included or they're not welcomed here. I think
Right.
everybody's welcomed here. We're a very inclusive place. We have,
No, this place in
Yeah.
the summertime
Yeah.
too is always busy. I mean, you guys roll up the garage doors and it's you can't come here where the parking lot's not pretty much packed.
yeah. So the thought here is, like I said, it's not about being a super packed restaurant. It's about being a place where people enjoy enough to continue to tell their friends about, and hopefully they'll bring them here, right? A place where you feel comfortable with the staff, with the people, with the quality of food. We do the best we can with that. Who are understanding when it's busy and we're, like you walk in here, we are a small restaurant. We see 50 at best. We're extremely slow to the draw. I mean, we're going to get you a drink. We're going to keep it coming the best we can. If it gets busy, hopefully everybody's, learned how to be very understanding of, like, we're doing the best we can.
But you guys
Yeah.
are awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
Rachel and I, we eat out a lot.
Yeah.
We probably eat out 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And these guys are like freaking like Sean back there. I know the camera can't see him. He's a machine, man.
Yeah.
It's like I could be taking my last sip of beer,
Yeah.
and he's like right there.
Yeah. Here's another one.
Yeah, Grayson, Devin,
Yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah. We're so grateful. We have a phenomenal staff. We always have, and everybody's empowered.
Yeah.
To be in charge. So when I'm here with them and I'm in the kitchen and they're in the front of the house, it's their restaurant. I will ask them, if they need any help. First and foremost, I'm not going to step over their toes.
Right.
I'm not going to say and correct them. It's not my job. My job is that we have a space where they feel comfortable being who they are, and we want to empower them.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to bring it back to that whole thing, the leadership idea of you probably got a lot of people that you want to bring on, and so do I. And so I'm excited to okay, well, who's somebody you're thinking of that we can say, all right, and what do you think is going to be the impact for somebody that you bring them on this podcast, just so they can share their story, and that other people can say, wow, okay, you're going through this, I'm going through this also. Like, where do you see this going?
So my thought is, I have a lot of good friends who've worked in restaurants, who've started from nothing, who are now in a better position than they have been, whether they've taken a different job in the food service industry or outside the food service industry, but mostly.
That shot feels good, by the way.
Yeah,
it's like my tummy's
great.
nice and warm. Yeah.
I'm ready to rock, So
Might have to do one
I
more.
want to share a
Might have to
story
do one more, yeah.
about, I want them to tell us, kind of where they started and what got them to moving on.
Yeah.
And doing something else that benefits them or their family. And also, at the same time, they have great stories.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends with great stories, whether they can say it or not, and people want to hear it or not, about the honesty of working in a restaurant.
Do you have any examples? You don't have to name names or anything. But
so I have a great friend who's always been a great bartender, who's now realized one day that he wants more than the life of being a bartender, because he started having family. So he worked his way up through a food salesman company, and a big distributor here in town, actually one of the largest few in the United States. And so now I would like him to share with me his stories of witnessing like other bartenders and other employees, and anything from, as bad as it sounds, like all the theft that you see behind a bar from a bartender, a server, a bar manager.
So like the bartender stealing cash, or like just
no, just anything and everything. Like anything that he has a great story about, whether it's a nice bottle of wine that they dropped, or a nice bottle of liquor that they took home, or like how they came up through the food industry, and what made them want to do something different, or more, or still that can contribute to what we do. But I want the honest truth.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, nobody's here to punish you. You're not going to lose your job now because hopefully, a story that you gave. But I want to know, like, all the bar fights, all the people you've kicked out, all the late nights you've had, all the great times you've had.
Right.
Being young, and meeting people, and just give us a background of, like, what the industry was like when you came up through the industry, and what it is like now. I want to see that.
Do you feel like
comparison.
it's changed a lot?
Yeah,
Just
a lot.
you personally? I mean, because you're
personally,
around it. You're here.
Yeah,
You're
personally, it's changed a great deal, and I want him to share stories that want people to continue to support, your local bar scene, your local music venue.
Right.
And I want people to hear about all these great stories, and I think it'll encourage them to, like I feel like a part of my youth was, going to dive bars and listening to music.
Right.
Like, where can you do that now? You can't. And it's not like we do music. We don't do that. That's just not what we do. But we also at the same time need places like that.
Right.
On the other side of the coin, I also have met some great people that, it's a small Spokane, Liberty Lake. It's a small world, period. So I've met a lot of people that have known somebody that I've known.
We might have to do one more of those.
Yeah, through a different industry. And I want them to share the story of why they're retired here living in Liberty Lake. They've lived a little bit.
I love this town. I mean, not to go down a rabbit hole, but I mean, the reason we moved here was, I love you, mother-in-law, but we didn't want to get too close to the in-laws. So
Yes.
they're coming over every other day, barring brown sugar or something.
Yeah.
I always joke about
Yeah.
that, but
At least
but
you're
that's-
honest.
Yeah, but
know?
that's what we landed on. And I don't live that close to my parents either. You
Yeah.
know, my dad lives in Vail, Arizona. My mom lives in Merritt Island, Florida.
Hey, Sean, you want to say hi? Sorry to interrupt.
I
Stephen.
know you're good. This
This
is
is Sean.
this is Joe Rogan's version of Jamie. This
Yeah.
is Sean. He's a stud.
Everybody-
Yeah. But we, you know, so we said, okay, well, let's land in a place in Washington because at the time we weren't on food stamps yet, but we had the state's insurance. We're like, oh, we have to stay in Washington. I'm like, Liberty Lake, Liberty Lake.
Yeah.
What's Liberty Lake?
Yeah.
And so I remember driving here and looking at a rental, and I was like, dude, this is a great town, man.
Yeah.
I kind of like this. And that was 2014, so we've been here ever since. But
Yeah. Yeah, I love it here. Like I said, is the reason why my parents moved to Spokane was my uncle lived here, and culturally in my culture, since my dad didn't really know his family very well, my mom did. What you do is you follow like the patriarch of your family. You
Yeah.
follow like the leadership, and so culturally, since my uncle is here and my grandma and grandpa were older and they needed more care than my mom could give them, she moved my whole family here. One day, they both just kind of quit their jobs and drove here and said, hey, we're going to live with my uncles until we find jobs. And I'm talking like these are people that, my parents are hardworking individuals. And so by that, I mean...
that's where you get your work
yeah,
ethic,
my dad was
obviously.
janitor. My mom, she was a homemaker for a long time, and then my mom and dad both worked multiple odd jobs in the evening when you didn't even understand it as a kid why they were
Right.
gone. Like cleaning places, whether back in the day it was bowling alleys. My dad would take us every now and then to a bowling alley he was cleaning so we could pick up like pull tabs and quarters and peanut shells. And back then it was like beer cans.
Yeah.
Cans everywhere, And those are some of my fondest memories. And I feel like, we are so grateful to be here. When they moved here, my oldest brother started going to college here. We were
Do you
still
feel
in
like
high school.
no, because I want to go down that rabbit hole. Do you feel like maybe the new generations have lost that? They've lost this working hard, the idea. I mean, I remember as a kid, I grew up not on a farm, but we had a ton of animals. It was
Yep.
shoveling horse shit.
Yeah.
It was,
Let's-
tow stacked a
Let me
woodpile.
interrupt you for a sec here, but let's give everybody a little bit more of a background of like how old are we, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna be 42 this year.
So I'm older than you. Okay, awesome.
No, it doesn't matter, but we're in our 40s. And so you have to understand that, like, when we're in our teens, that's a long time ago, whether you choose to believe so or not.
Yeah.
Different generation, how we grew up, how we work, what we, and that's the other reason why we wanted this podcast, because I've met multiple people who are, maybe 20 to 30 years older than I am, who have just recently retired. And when they share their stories of how they came up, it's like, I got one pair of jeans for the year and a pair of shoes. And we
man.
would hem our jeans so that when we got a little bit taller, we would just hem them, we would
Right.
just drop the hem. I'm thinking, let's hear about that.
Yeah.
Like here we are, and like you just said, with my kids and the new generation, part of that is our responsibility, right?
Right.
Because here we are doing everything we can. Part of me feels like I do everything I can for my kids because I feel like it's not that we didn't have enough. I
Right.
just didn't, and at the time I don't think we know any better.
Well, and you never
know.
want
Yeah.
your kids to go through as hard a times as you do.
Whatever that means. Steven.
Right.
Was it that hard?
I
I had fun playing outside, man.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
I don't remember
yeah.
having a bad childhood. It's like, okay,
don't.
did I despise shoveling llama shit? Well, like, well, no, I didn't despise it. I mean, my grandparents used to give me like $2.50 when I would, a day when I would.
I think that comes into perspective on both sides of the coin. It's just not the fact that we did different chores,
Right.
jobs. We just grew up in a different generation where we're not on our devices.
Right.
Also, at the same time, like, as for myself, you always remember all the great times, right?
Right.
But you also really focus on the fact that not everything's perfect, man. As you get older, for me, myself, you realize that, like, there are a lot of hard times too.
Yeah.
And the more that you can understand those, and why they allow you to be a better individual going forward. And I say that, meaning that even though I understand that they went through some really hard times, and everybody does, whether you're rich or poor, it doesn't matter. There is stress, whether it's in business
All
or
different
this or that.
levels,
Yes.
yeah.
And so my understanding for myself has always been that, like for me, like driving here, thinking about what we're going to talk about, I can remember a really great story about myself as a dad, new dad, couple kids, and you always, tell your in-laws and the people and people come to the restaurant, people you just meet, and your staff and everybody about how great everything is. Well, this platform gives people, hopefully, will give individuals a chance to share also stories about how not great life is,
Right.
and that does make a difference.
Yeah.
Because for me, you look at me, like I said, we don't know each other, Steven. This is the best kind of podcast because we don't really know each other.
Right.
We get to know each other as we have more episodes, as we ask each other more questions, as we put out more content. And so for me, it's kind of like, I struggle as a dad, I have 4 little kids. I struggle as a partner. Everybody does. But let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how how I relate that to work, how I relate that to my life. And like you said, what makes you want to run a restaurant, My thought is always, I now, at this age, tell myself all the time that I want to put myself in a situation where I get to teach myself something, multiple things about myself every day that'll hopefully make me a better person, whether
Right.
that's at home or in business or with relationships.
But you have a growth mindset. You have
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to be a better person, man.
Yeah.
I do. And that's not to say that, what I've done in the past or business I've had, which we'll learn about, and you and I will both learn about that as we get to
sure.
know each other, that, I wasn't really proud of doing this. This was my first endeavor. It failed badly. And now looking back on it, this is probably why. I think we get
Have
to
you
share.
started other businesses before?
Yeah,
This one?
I've had a couple businesses. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like I said, is we get to learn about each other.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a good chance for me to now get to learn a little bit about you, and now you get to give a little bit of background on where you come from, and then going forward, hopefully we have enough content, which there's going to be a lot to cover
Oh, yeah.
between our conversations, and hopefully we'll get some great guests that want to share some stories. And the thought here for this podcast is that I want people to share their stories,
Yeah.
whether they're good or bad, so that personally you get to learn a little bit about yourself, and other people get to share their experiences and learn something about themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's the thought of this podcast.
Yeah,
you
I'm
know?
with you.
Yeah. So go ahead, your turn, right? Your kids, their ages.
Gosh,
your
man. I
background.
mean, well, back to your businesses though. How many did you start before you succeeded? Did you start and fail, or was it like the first
Steven,
one was good?
As an entrepreneur, and you are too, I know that,
Yep.
right? I would like to tell that they all succeeded in some fashion.
Right.
Like how about this? We've never had a file for any kind of bankruptcy protection. We've always worked really hard. I think the thought is as you get older and more of your family and people in your lives are involved, whether it's your partner, your kids, your family, your good friends,
Right.
and you get to learn a little bit more about each other, you evolve your business and your mindset based on my thought now is always, and I love this restaurant, I love this community, I love what I do. I love coming here. How about that? It changes my day.
Yeah.
I look forward to coming here. But at the end of the day, if I feel like some facet of my life, whether it's with my partner, my wife, or my brother who does a lot of work with myself, or my siblings, or my parents, or my staff, if we're starting to struggle with the way that we interact with each other,
Right.
then we have to do something else. And that is the one thing that I have learned from businesses is that it doesn't matter how successful you are or how many times you've failed or try to fail. To make that adjustment, to know that it's time to do something different,
Yeah.
to know when it's time to, I would rather sacrifice, like you said, back to your 4 points, right?
Healthy,
Enough
ethos,
is-
love, and money.
yes.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
I choose, now more than ever, because I am a dad of 4 and a great partner and a leader to a lot of young men and women here, as many that want to be involved in this circle. Not very many, but enough to make a difference. hopefully in somebody's life, that if there's something that we can change and do differently, and it does not involve being in a restaurant, we'll do something else.
Right.
And you know what? Whatever that is, who knows? But we'll figure it out. Because I can.
I mean,
you
I
know,
see Sean taking over this place when you're ready to be
I
done.
have always told Sean, he came up to the restaurants, and like I said, hopefully he'll be a guest at a different
we'll get
time,
him on
and
here.
he's got great stories to share with you. You know how he came up, what he does now, you know what his family does now. He's a great story of somebody who wants to be here, and a great opportunity of leading in a different direction,
Right.
and hopefully that'll work for him. And take the good and the bad, and do whatever you want, as long as you're happy and you succeed, or you feel like you succeed and you feel like you're willing to make a change, or you feel like you're willing to do something different that benefits other people, not just yourself.
Right.
You know, as you get older, I think that's the goal. So, long story short, like I said, is I am willing now more than ever, knowing what I know, which is not a lot. Like I said, there's a lot of people I know who have been in restaurants generationally, you know, who have done great jobs. But from my personal experience, I feel like if we have a dynamic where it starts to really affect the way that we are as a family, and by that I mean with the customers,
Right.
with the staff,
If that dynamic is ever
with my
disrupted,
family.
though, yeah,
we have to do something else.
yeah, I get
And that's
you.
when you kind of know when to move on.
Yeah.
And for me personally,
Yeah.
for you, yeah, like I said, I don't know you, Stu. So I get to learn about you. And,
You get
and
to
I
learn
think-
about me? Oh,
yeah.
man.
You know, like I think we need to learn about each other. I think, but that's the most important part of me is I've always said, hey, if this job, so just a small example would be my brother and I, my younger brother and I, Tim. He's the hardest working guy I've ever met in my life.
And Tim runs the other location?
You know, we run restaurants together. It's just
Okay.
COVID kind of split us up a little bit. We have a lot of projects together other than this place, which is great.
I've actually never been to the other location,
Yes.
just so you know. Yeah.
Yeah, so same. South Valley in a neighborhood, phenomenal valley.
Yeah.
Kind of like, for me, when I open a restaurant, my first one, being 32nd, that's the kind of neighborhood that you want a restaurant in. That's my feel.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why I came to Liberty Lake was because I felt like we could do the same here.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean anybody's welcomed. Doesn't matter who you are. Show up, get to know your neighbor,
Yeah.
be in the neighborhood, you know, keep the neighborhood, you know, with more restaurants, with more people in this neighborhood, we get to keep the neighborhood, you know. So, yeah, I love that neighborhood. 32nd for me is the reason why you would ever have a restaurant or a business or a small tavern bar,
Yeah.
because the feel. When you walk into that place, when you get to meet the neighbors, the people that support that restaurant, it definitely changes the way that you perceive what a neighborhood gathering space would be.
Yeah.
Just great.
Back to the
Great.
Cheers thing earlier, where everybody
Yes.
knows your name. It's
Yes, where you
Yeah.
get to know each other, where you care for each other, where you know, like I said here, we are so grateful that we are tucked back, both restaurants. We're not battling with a nightclub or a night scene or downtown, where people that walk through the doors here, the bar kind of, and I say this often, but this place places itself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to put yourself in a place where you're asking somebody to leave, or where you feel like you need somebody to watch the door.
right.
You know, it's a great neighborhood space where everybody knows each other regardless of where they're coming from. Somehow, some way, generations of people that have settled in the same neighborhoods who continue to grow a neighborhood.
Well, I hope
Yeah.
that as you know, as
Yeah.
the show keeps going and we
Yeah.
do more episodes and stuff,
Yeah.
that it's really going to draw. Well, people here when we're filming, I think it's
Yeah.
really going to start building. But
Yeah.
I want people to. I mean, bad way to say it, but
Yeah.
putting this place on the map
Yeah.
because it's already
Yeah.
on the map. But
Yeah.
I think it's going to draw a lot of attention. A lot of people
Yeah,
are going to say,
I think
"Wow, this is
the goal
a."
is not to draw, you know, put ourselves on the map. I mean, look around
Right.
now and look at the restaurant. What time is it?
How long?
Like,
have
and
we
what day
been
is it?
talking,
This is
man?
Saturday. I mean, we just put this together on a whim.
Yeah.
It's got to be around what, 1:30 or 2.
12:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you look around. We
How long have we been
opened.
talking,
We opened
Caleb?
30 minutes ago. You know.
How long have we been talking?
Yeah.
44. Okay,
That's
somewhere
pretty
less
good.
than an hour.
You know, 30 minutes into this, you look around. I mean, other than the space that we're taking up, bars halfway there, the restaurant's somewhat full of people. It is a holiday weekend, but
Well,
you know,
I think that,
we're
I mean,
pretty
this
grateful,
might
yeah.
be really actually a good place to land. And
Yeah.
then we got to do this next shot here.
Yeah.
Let's start thinking about people that we want to bring
yeah.
on.
And then hopefully I get to learn about you next time we talk to each other.
Yeah, for sure.
So I get a chance to share a small tidbit of my background and what I want to do with this podcast, and hopefully on the next one you get to share exactly kind of what your goals are for this podcast and why we decided that we're a good fit for each other in this podcast.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jimmie.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, cheers. Yeah.
Now that we know how to properly take a shot, right?
Yeah. Breathe. Hold your
Breathe.
breath.
Good.
Feels great.
I love it.
Yeah, but
All
we're
right.
so grateful. I think what's nice too is I think that this will give us an opportunity to, everybody involved, right? So right now it's just yourself and I, me talking more than you, because obviously this is kind of our first, experiment on if we can even make this work. But I mean, I love the space. And the gentleman I met this morning, they're phenomenal. I think
Yeah.
we're going to be able to kind of do something fun. And I hope that people are willing to join us. And
Well, hopefully
listen in.
when this posts, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully they comment.
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
the feedback. Like
Yeah,
to
tell
say
us,
that was the
tell us
worst
you don't want to listen to
podcast
Jimmie.
ever. Yeah.
I get it. If you don't listen to me, you can listen to Steve next time.
I keep
Good for
pulling
you.
up my shirt because I feel like if I slouch too low, that the buttons kind of separate and it shows my my pot belly. So
Well,
I'm
I'm fine with that.
self-conscious
I mean, we're not here to look good. We're here to actually have a great a conversation and make a difference.
awesome.
You know.
Well, we'll dive into my stuff next time
Yes.
and kind of give you a snapshot of how we landed here
Yeah.
and
what you're doing now and where you want to go forward. I think, and like I said, I think that when you squeeze a lot of information in a small period of time, over time is kind of what we're after. So
yeah.
everybody gets to learn a little bit about both of us. We also get to learn more about each other,
Right.
which, like I said, this is not rehearsed. We really just met each other and decided we're going to do a podcast, and you were gracious enough to get all the right people together so that we can kind of try to launch something kind of fun.
Yeah.
you know.
Awesome.
I don't know where this is going to take us, but I think it's going to be a great adventure. I hope that people embrace us a little bit and want to listen to us, and and want to come share the stories.
Yeah.
Whether it's here or not, because we're recording here today. And if it doesn't work out, Steven, we go somewhere else.
Well, let's talk real quick
Yeah.
too. So Fremont, these guys aren't a sponsor, but this
No.
just happens to be I love this beer, by the way.
Yeah. So these guys are just the background to our walk-in.
Yeah.
Anybody's welcome to be part of that. So please let us know. We're always looking for a great opportunity to promote the neighborhood, to promote
Yeah.
people, anybody in general. How about
Yeah,
that? So,
yeah.
but at
But
the
as
end
a
of the day,
beer company, I mean, I love
Yeah.
IPAs. I love IPAs.
Yeah.
These guys are awesome.
Yeah, they do a great job. We're so grateful that we, at the end of the day, everybody always asks us why we don't make beer. And I'm like, what we're really good at is pouring beer.
That's good. I like
Yeah.
that.
We can't make it. We can pour it.
Yeah.
We don't make spirits or liquor. We're not good at that. We don't make wine. We're good at pouring it.
That's awesome.
That's what we're really good at. So,
Good.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
you, Jimmie.
Yeah, and like I said, hopefully next time we get to learn a bit more about you, right?
Yeah, we'll
Now
get
you
into
see
it.
a little bit
Get the
less
kinks worked
talking.
out, see
Yeah.
what we learn, and
Yeah,
go from
see
there.
if we can even hear what's going on in here today. But I think we'll figure it out. And like I said, if this location doesn't work for us, I think we have a great idea going forward somewhere else. I think, but
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
love to continue if we can host it here. That way we get a live feel for the restaurant. I know that today, even this morning, as we're setting up, we had a couple people walk through the door and they're a little curious at what we're doing. And so I think.
Well, I think
that-
one episode, like I said, I'm just going to play that pinball game the whole time.
Yeah,
The
you know,
007
play some
pinball.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it on the camera,
Yeah,
but
we should be able to play that while we're talking to each other. And I think that will happen.
okay.
As we continue to have great conversations, we can sit here and talk to each other while we're, and the job here for a lot of these guys is we can do the same where we're actually talking to each other about our interests in our life versus like what I need to make you for food or
I'm
you
getting
know,
hungry. We
What
should get something.
table, yeah. So hopefully, let's get you guys some food.
All right,
We'll
brother.
feed
Well, I
everybody up.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steven.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Good to go.
I look forward to doing more of these.
Yeah,
So,
heck yeah, man.
Yeah. Cheers.
Love it.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers.
Thank you, guys.